Hi there. We are here with Ariel Siegelman, president of the DRACO Group, to address a question that came to us just recently and that we've heard in the past. Check out this meme. It's circulating on Facebook. It says, "Carrying with an empty chamber is like telling yourself you'll have time to put on a seatbelt before you wreck." So I want to ask Ariel about this question because I know that he's got a phenomenal explanation for why that's silly. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to thank John Ginsberg for sending that over to us and, paying attention and being part of our page and thinking about us when silly things like this come up. So, why is it silly? That's the question. And, I think it's a funny meme. I think that I'll probably laugh about it later. But I also think that it's important to think about it and kind of analyze it. So why is this meme a problem for me? First of all, you know that with the Israeli method of carrying a weapon, a firearm, we don't always carry without a bullet in the chamber, but very often we carry without a bullet in the chamber. So number one, I think that it's important to remember that if you make blanket statements of like, this is the only way to do something, then you're probably walking on a path that may lead you nowhere. There's a lot of ways to do something, and there's a lot of legitimate ways, and I think that the Israelis have proven their own method to be effective, one of multiple effective methods, let's put it that way. So that's number one. Now, number two, so if we analyze this statement for a second, the real problem is that whoever wrote it, I have a problem believing that they actually understand combat methodology. See, what they're doing is they're equating an accident, right, like a car accident, with a threat that comes from human intent. And that's the key. And so a threat that comes from human intent, the piece of this that I agree with is that, yeah, time is important, right? So speed at which you can operate is important. And so what they're saying is keep a bullet in the chamber because it's faster. But guys, guess what? You know what's even faster? I'll show you. Why don't we all just walk around like this? Does that sound like a good idea? It would be much faster, right? I can if I have no ability to gauge risk, and if I believe that a person could attack me at any moment without any indication, then shoot, I should be walking around with my gun in my hand all the time. But I don't do that because just like in a car, I don't always wear my seatbelt. I mean, I'll give you a scenario. If I'm sitting in my car with my engine off, checking my email, I probably don't have my seatbelt on. Why? Because there's very little risk in me having a car accident if I'm not actually moving. Well, likewise, if I'm sitting in the living room with my children playing with their Legos, probably the risk in that environment is so low that at least I need to ask myself, am I increasing the risk in the environment or decreasing the risk in the environment by having a bullet in the chamber? In other words, do you really think somebody is going to attack you inside your home, in your living room, in, your suburban house? Like, come on, guys, we have to be able to separate between Kandahar and Atlanta, Georgia. Now, it could happen, but could it happen? What's the likelihood that it would happen where you don't have time to put a bullet into the chamber? That's the real question. And likewise, if I'm going in on some sort of a military operation, well, if I didn't have a bullet in the chamber, then it would probably be greatly increasing the risk to myself and the guys around me. So in the Israeli methodology, we really think about risk a whole lot more and have a relationship with risk and threat. And our weapon is there to reduce the risk in the environment. Not just like it. People have said to me before, it's not a gun if it doesn't have a bullet in the chamber. Man, it's still a gun. It just doesn't have a bullet in the chamber. And you know how fast you can put a bullet in the chamber? If you train, you can do it real fast.
Yep, exactly. So what have you seen, what kind of incidences have you seen occur from people who are trained or untrained walking around with a bullet in the chamber?
Well, it's funny you ask, because some people will say, oh, well, you just probably, the Israelis, I heard some guy say, the Israeli commandos probably aren't trained well enough to be able to walk around with a bullet in the chamber.
You're kidding.
Nope, not kidding. So, I mean, that's obviously a silly statement, and then I've heard other people say, well, we don't train very well, so we need to keep a bullet in the chamber. So it's kind of an equally strange argument to me. I would say that having a bullet in the chamber has a certain element of danger to it.
Sure.
It just is innately more risky than not having a bullet in the chamber.
Mm-hmm.
It's just science. Now, the real question is, does the danger of the environment warrant risking the additional danger of the status of our weapon? That's the real question.
All right.
So, what have I seen happen? Man, I've seen guys who were quite well trained. And if you guys look on YouTube, for those of you who think that there's no danger in having a bullet in your chamber, just look it up on YouTube. Accidental shooting yourself. Or police officer accidentally shooting himself. And you'll find numerous examples of people shooting themselves in the foot, and in the butt, and in the leg, and in who knows what. Because guys, bottom line is this. If under stress, and forget about training, right? So you'll see it in training too, but if under stress, you think that there's not like a physiological thing happening inside of your body that makes it more difficult to control that weapon, even if you have trained, then you're wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So if under stress I go to get my weapon and I have a bullet in the chamber, my weapon is facing my foot from the beginning if I'm wearing it here, right? So I pull it. I've got all this time that now it starts to be on target. Here, I can safely have a bullet in the chamber. All around here is actually a danger zone. Mm-hmm. So, can I do it? Of course I can do it. Many police officers do it very successfully, and you can do it. But it's got more danger.
Yeah.
It's got more risk to the operator.
Mm-hmm.
So I just need to know that.
Yep.
So, in other words, to make a blank statement though that like, oh yeah, if you don't have a bullet in the chamber, it's like expecting that you're gonna have time to put on a seatbelt before you wreck. It's silly. And it's not, and it's comparing apples to oranges. A car wreck has very little to do with an actual attack that is dependent on human intent.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Good. Well, I think you should explain this to us further this week. Another video later on the breakdown of what this really means and how you can explain it to others. So if you have people out there that are going to argue the point, there is a great argument that you can simply put on a whiteboard to show why this argument makes sense. So
yeah, we'll come back to you in part 2 to show kind of the science behind how to make the decision, at least from the Israeli perspective.
Yep.
How do we make the decision of now it's time to have a bullet in the chamber,
mm-hmm.
now it's time to not have a bullet in the chamber? And that actually takes a greater degree of discretion and training, mm-hmm. because then it's up to the operator to decide, I'm constantly aware of risk in my environment. It's not just, oh yeah, I always have a bullet in the chamber. I got to be measuring risk 100% of the time, constantly while I'm awake in my life.
All right. Looking forward to it. Join us there. Please share this. If you've got folks that are set on one way or the other, share it with them also. And then tune in later this week where we explain it a little bit further. Take care, guys. Be safe out there.